Hello and welcome to the 757 Spy Flight on YouTube. My name is Dave. Welcome to the channel. Welcome if you're new. If you're new here, normally you see airplanes sitting on the computer screen and everything, but today it's a blank computer screen because we're going to do a complete flight plan from start to finish. We're going to start with what used to be called a blank sheet of paper, but nowadays we all use Notepad and other things, so we have a blank notepad. And normally when we do a flight, you look down in the description and I include all of the flight data that I usually do for a flight. Now, a few things are filled in here in the middle part of this from my last flight, but everything else is completely blank. So we'll go ahead and try and figure out how it is that I'll go through and do a flight plan. This is for a flight that would be over on VATSIM. So let's think about where it is we want to go. Best place to start with that is something like VATSPY or SimAware. This is one of my favorite places to go to see where there might be some ATC, where might be a fun flight to go. And usually at the time that I'm recording all of this, Europe is totally lit up. Looks like we've also got a fair few flights that are going across the Atlantic right now. Oh, look at this! We've got Hawaii, and we've also got LA and Oakland up in the U.S. That's a little unusual for now. Let's talk about maybe doing a flight here in Europe. And let's go ahead and how about Oslo down to Copenhagen? That's a nice short flight. And usually one of the first things I'll do is look for the flight. Okay, we found a place where there's full ATC for the whole route. So the next thing I'll do is go over to my little area of flight notes. We'll try and keep the screen kind of clear here. And I'll just put those in. So Oslo, I'm going to actually type these out and put in ENGM. The ICAO, okay? And then the next thing is going to be Copenhagen. COPENHAGE. Okay, and that is going to be EKCH. And just put that in there. And I'm going to put that right in there at the top. We're going to take the A300 on this one. That should be a fun flight. So the next thing that I'm going to go and do before I even start the flight planner is, since there's ATC, I want to know what runways they're using, okay? So normally SimBrief is going to give you some pretty good runways, so let's take a look at the arrival airport first. Here is Copenhagen, and if you hover over the airport, if they've got an ATIS, you can read their ATIS, and the arrival ATIS for Copenhagen is Information Juliet, and runway in use for landing is 04 left. Wow, that makes it easy, doesn't it? Okay, so I'm going to go over here in my notes page, and I'm going to go over here. Let's put the notes up here, and we'll put the map down here. So I'm going to go here, and for the arrival, I'm going to go 04. Typing is hard this morning. 04 left, okay? Then the next thing I'm going to do is come back over here, and there was something about stars. And it said, runway in use for landing 4 left, expect alpha stars. Ah, okay. So we're going to look for that when the time comes for our flight into Copenhagen. Now then, let's come on up to the departure airport. Okay, and we're coming up here, ENGM. We're going out of Oslo here. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit tighter here so I can see the terminal. And then we're going to go to Oslo and look at the ATIS here. And it says departure runway 01 left in use. And the transition level is 85. Okay, so 01 left is our departure runway. I'm going to go and put that one up here too. So now that we're starting to build up our plan, and it's now time for us to go and jump into SimBrief. So fortunately, SimBrief is already set up and ready to go. There has been an update, and that's pretty nice. So we'll go ahead and get rid of that. Now let's create a new flight plan. So create. Now, I've got a whole bunch of airplanes that I've gone and saved here. But if we look at aircraft type, in my Airbus A300, that's the new airplane from IndyBuilds, I'm going to get the one that's a F, a freighter. And so that's the A300F for freighter 600. And then we'll look over here, and I've got 3 airlines set up, DHL, UPS, and FedEx. Let's do DHL. So it's going to be Postman. And DHL's airline ICAO is BCS. So BCS And then I usually go with my old flight number, which is easy to remember. And then the next thing we'll do is, and if you've forgotten, ENGM to EKCH. So ENGM goes in departure, EKCH goes into arrival. The next thing that I might do is the spy flight over on Twitch usually departs at 1900 Zulu. So I might come in here and change my departure time. Now, this is really an important thing to change, especially if you're going to be in an event like Cross the Pond or Cross the Land or any event that you have got a departure slot for. So if you got a departure slot, then at that point in time, you might need to go and do change the time to whatever your CTOT, calculated takeoff time, is. That's the term that they use when you go over to VATSIM and reserve a slot. I'm just going to go ahead and go 1635 Zulu. So there's going to be my departure time. Next thing I'm going to do is come down here, and over time I've learned that a cost index between 65 and 85 is probably good. I'm going to go with 65. We're not going to spend too much money here. We're going to get an on-time departure, so we don't have to spend that much money on gas. This is an Airbus. I usually have my units in kilos. And then the flight plan style that I use is Lido. That's the Lido style, and I believe it's the default here at SimBrief. Next thing I'm going to do is if it's a big VATSIM event, like Cross the Pond or Cross the Land, I may up right now my taxi time, my initial fuel for taxi is 35 minutes. I might up that to 59 minutes. You might need to do that if it's going to be a long taxi. This is one of the places where you can go and add a little bit of time to your flight. And then the next thing I'm going to do is come down here, see where it says departure and arrival runways. Well, we've already gone over to SimAware, and we know it's 1 left and 4 left. Now, if I hadn't gone and checked this, okay, here's the thing. If I hadn't gone and checked this, those runways would be different. It's just my bad luck, okay? So I always like to check, and that way I can put in the correct runways here, okay? So I know we're departing on 1 left and arriving on 4 left. The flight plan's going to set us up. And then as I was reading that, remember we saw that they would like you to use alpha stars to come in, and it gave us the Ernov 2 alpha departure, so that's already in there. Now, if you'd like, you could come down here and you could grab a couple of other flights if you'd like and just have a look. Here's another flight that takes you a little bit further west. Here's a flight that takes you, I think that was about the same. Here's another one further east. What would be a good thing to check now for something like this? Well, if you've got Navigraph, a cool thing to do with Navigraph, and I have a other flight in here. So let's go ahead and unload this flight here. So we're going to unload that. Let's come on up to this area here. So this is where we're going to be flying right now. So there is Norway, there's Copenhagen, right in the middle. Let's go and clear that, and let's hit the weather tab here on Navigraph. Worst kept secret, I used to do the weather on TV for a long time before I got into live streaming. And so one of my favorite things to do is check the weather. Yep, still enjoy checking the weather. And the first thing I usually like to check is either the MSL, mean sea level pressure. And you can see that there's some blue areas here. So we got some blue areas up north west of Scotland. We've also got some blue areas down here. This is indicating high and low pressure. And the general rule is red, high pressure, nice weather. Fuzzy bunnies and kittens. Blue, low pressure, not so great. Alligators and rattlesnakes or something. So that's kind of what you've got there for, you can generally see it's going to be a little bit unsettled and a little more unsettled as we get closer into Copenhagen. Next thing that I really like to do is hit the weather tab down here, and I'm going to look at the jet streams. And let's see if the jet streams are going to be messing with us. Now, I keep my weather here at flight level 220. That's a really good mid-range here of all of the altitudes. If SimBrief's going to put us up to flight level 340, okay, now all of a sudden we're seeing some deeper jet streams. much gustier winds. But as you kind of come up and down here, you can look and see if the jet stream is going to slow down your ground speed a little bit, or if you're going to get a really nice tailwind. So jet streams is one of the next things that I like to look at. Looks like jet streams, not a big deal. Now let's go and take a look at the radar. Let's see if we've got moisture to look at. And okay. So it looks like coming out of Norway, everything's going to be clear as far as moisture is concerned out of Norway. Coming down to Copenhagen, it's starting to get a little bit more spotty. Okay. And then if you're going down into Central Europe, get ready for a lot more spotty moisture. This is important as you take a look at temperatures. So taking a look at some of the temperatures in there, this is going to give you an idea as to whether or not you're going to have to deal with any icing. And right now, I think we're kind of borderline as far as icing. And, do like to have the icing option turned on in Microsoft Flight Simulator, because the real pilots have to do that. We should too. So I do like to take a look at a lot of these. The next thing we might do is we might take a look here at cloud cover. Okay, so it's going to be kind of cloudy, not much scenery on today's flight, to see, because it's going to be clouds. That also, because of the clouds, that's also considered a form of moisture. You might have to worry about icing for departure and arrival as well. So that is a good way to go and take a look. Maybe the best way for us to start is look at radar, and radar again. For our route of flight down here, maybe we would rather do, it might be a better choice for us to take the route over here on the west side. Okay? So let's plan the east side, because there's more moisture over here. Why don't we go ahead and do that? No jet streams to avoid, but this is a good way to kind of compare and see what it is that which might be the best route. And again, they say they want you to use the alpha arrivals. The Ernov 2 alpha arrival is going to work great for us. So now, all of a sudden, we get to go and generate the flight plan. Okay, so once the flight plan is done, it's going to say, okay, you're done, and it's going to give you a lot of the same information. What I usually do is I view the PDF. That's going to open another tab, and here is 27 pages of flight airplane immersion for you. What I usually do is I'll take this and I'll hit the save button, and over on the desktop, I've got a PDF file called Active Plan. And I put that over. It won't let me download my active plan because I have another one open right now. Yeah, okay, I've got another one open here. So let's go ahead and close that. And let's go ahead and now do it again. So save active plan. Okay, see, now it's saved. I always like to keep a copy of this over on the desktop so I can get to it really fast, especially if it's going to be something like Cross the Pond when you're going to be super duper busy. And then if you are going to be on VATSIM, it's so easy. Go here and pre-file on a network. Go over here to VATSIM. And now here's a tip. If you're new on VATSIM and stuff, if you're and in fact, even if you've been doing this for a couple of months, if you still feel like you're new and you get a little bit lost, come on down here. So here's our flight details. We're going to be BCS flight 441. We're going from ENGM to EKCH. Here's our flight route. Here's our altitude, flight level 310. Ooh, that's a good thing. Let's go ahead and put this in our flight notes right now. Flight level 310. Now we'll go down a little bit more. And here is at the very bottom, it says RMK. And that is remarks. And what they really would like you to do, the controllers all agree, if you're new on VATSIM, put in something like new on VATSIM. Something like that. Just new on VATSIM. That's all they would like to do. And you can do that for as long as you feel like you'd like the controllers to know, I'm kind of new at this. And that way they're going to know, oh, here's somebody new. I can take a little bit more time to try and help them out. Or if it's getting a little bit crazy, I'm going to go and maybe, give them a more simple command or something like that so that they can navigate through the area. But new on VATSIM is a very, very important thing to do. That's a great thing to do in there. Also, if you're going to be flying an unusual airline, if I'm flying United Airlines, we know the call sign's United Airlines. But I'm going to be flying DHL. Okay, so the call sign CSIGN, call sign is postman. So our call sign, you could also put in there that you have a call sign that you would like them to use. In fact, I was flying just yesterday in Europe. I was flying DHL cargo, and somebody didn't know that our call sign was postman. So that's a good thing to do if you're flying something other than Lufthansa, Speedbird, United, or the big airlines, and go like that. Okay, and there you go. And then you would hit file. I'm not filing. I'm not doing this one. So there you go. That is all set and ready to go. Next things to do is you can come over here and open your PDF reader. And here's our flight plan. Make sure it's the current one, Oslo to Copenhagen. You could then come in here and do copy your route in. So I'll go Control C, and I'm going to copy my route over here into the notes. So it's all ready to go for me. I might also come over here, and our alternate is EKYT. EKYT. I'm going to do a slash and flight level 280. That lets me know if I do have to go to my alternate, that at least reminds me of what my alternate is. And yes, sometimes on VATSIM you have to go to your alternate. The famous example for the spy flight was when we all were going to Zurich and we all had to go to an alternate because it was a big VATSIM event and there wasn't enough room for everybody. Next thing you might do is come on down here and you could read your passengers. So we're going to have 4 passengers, 45.4 kilograms. That is going to be our cargo. It's going to be an hour and 25-minute flight. You could also put in the schedule information, the out, off, on, in time. This is actually kind of important if you're in a VATSIM event where you might end up needing to do your your scheduled time. You need to hit your scheduled time. And so all of this looks good. This is also giving you estimated takeoff weight, and it's down here, estimated. This has nothing to do with the law. You're not going to get a ticket, but that's LAW, landing weight. And so that gives you your landing weight. There's a lot more really great information here. So after you get those first 3 pages, then you've got waypoint by waypoint navigation. Keep going down, and now, ooh, this is cool. This is wind information. And a lot of the airplanes, like the A300, you can go and put in wind information for your descent. So my altitude was going to be flight level 310. I can go and plug these next 3 altitudes, these next 3 winds, into the flight management computer so it can kind of better compute your descent. Especially if you're going to be descending into the wind or descending with tailwind. So that's where you would go and find a bunch of that information. You're also going to get the ICAO's, ICAO flight plan. We jokingly call it that. You'll also be able to look at some dispatch information. You'll also be able to go and look at some more in-depth weather. And you'll be able to read detailed information and NOTAMs, just like the real pilots do. And you can see we're only on page 11 of 27, so there is a lot of NOTAMs. You can also go all the way down to the bottom, and you can take a look and see significant weather. This is pretty good. This kind of confirms the fact that the clouds are going to be increasing a little bit the further south we go. And all of that looks good. So we got our flight plan all set. Next thing you can do with SimBrief, which is really cool, is you can come to the departure airport and you can get the METAR, and you can copy the METAR and put it right into your flight notes. And if you're going to be super duper busy on a big VATSIM flight, just putting all of this information in here like this really does help. You keep everything straight, because you're going to have a lot in your head. Okay, so we've got all this. I could also put in all of this data in the middle. That's my cargo, the duration of the flight, 0 fuel weight. I'm not going to do it on this flight, on what we're doing here. But for the first flight that I usually do for the day, over on Twitch, I'll put all of that information in so I can do the really cool little departure boards that look like over at the airlines and stuff. Now then, the next thing we're doing is at this point in time, it's time to load into the simulator. And we're going to be on VATSIM, right? So come over to SimAware. And remember, we left SimAware here on the airport map. I'm going to refresh this just because sometimes it doesn't stay updated. And you can see where we have airplanes. See, the airplanes, they changed. So we've got an airplane over here at this gate, and it looks like the center area is open. So one of the things that we could come over here and do is we could go to flights, import flight from SimBrief. And here's our top flight. And that's going to be Gardermoen down to Copenhagen. And you get such great information out of this too. So go over here to the airports tab, and you can go over here to Gardermoen, and you can go to taxi and go down a little bit. Parking stands. So now you'll see, all right, there was an airplane over here at gate 48, 50, 52, right? Yeah, so there's 3 big gates down here. So that airplane right there is probably, then there's some little gates. So one of the things you can do is use this to figure out which gate to load into on Microsoft Flight Simulator, because some of the gates do actually correspond with the real world. So in this case, we could go and grab gate 68. And if you're going to be on VATSIM, you might even come over here and note the fact that you're going to be at gate 68. Because when you call for push and start, sometimes they want to know what gate you're at, and that way you're all ready to go there. And I'm also going to go and do what I call build up my stack of charts. In the old days, the pilots would have paper charts and they would stack them up in the order that they need. Here in Navigraph, what we can do is use the pin board, and I've just gone and pinned the parking stands. The next thing I'm going to do is maybe go get the airport chart. And as I'm looking at the airport chart, I'm going to look over and see, okay, 1 left. We're going to be over here, so we're going to be taxiing off to the west there. The next thing to do is look at SIDS. And oh my gosh, especially in Europe, there are tons of SIDS and stars. So our SID is going to be the ATLAP 5 Alpha. Okay, so I think the easiest way to search is just do 5A. So all the 5A departures, and there is the ATLAP 5 Alpha. Now, you can go and have most of these charts auto-populate for you. You just hit the little, there's a little switch that you can turn on down here. I have it turned off because as I'm stacking my charts, I'm going to take a look at my charts and see, do we have an initial climb clearance, for instance? That's kind of a big thing here. And ooh, it's 7,000 feet. So by stacking up my own charts manually, I have a chance to look at them all, and I've got them in my head, so I have an idea. Okay, we're taking off, going to the west, a little south, and ATLAP's over here and down. See, that works great. And I'm slowly building up my stack of charts. Next thing we're going to do is go down to Copenhagen, go to charts, and our arrival is going to be the Ernov 2 Alpha. Okay, it's right here at the top. There's 2 Beta, 2 Charlie. This is our arrival. And I'm going to just go and stick a pin in that one. We're coming in at Ernov. And again, I'm briefing myself on this and seeing maximum is 250 knots below flight level 110. And oh, it looks like we're going to be getting vectors. That's what all the little triangles there mean. We're going to get vectors to the runway. Do we have any transitions? I don't see transitions there. Let's come over here. SimBrief says runway 4 left. I don't see transitions here. So here is runway 4 left. Okay, so out of the star at Erpik, we're going to be below 4,000 feet, 220 knots, and then we're going to be making a left turn to turn into the runway landing north. And I've gotten stuck a pin in there, and then the next thing we'll do is we'll grab the airport. We'll also grab the parking stands. And now if you look, you can see we have a whole stack of charts down here in the order that we need them. And we've also pre-briefed ourselves, so we kind of know what to expect. And if you go and do that, when you finally get into your simulator cockpit and you've called up VATSIM and you're getting your clearance, you've already got an idea of what it is to expect. And that's just what makes it an awful lot easier for me. So the tools that I used basically for all of this was Navigraph, obviously, for my charts and my nav data. I also used SimBrief. SimBrief is the part of Navigraph that's free for you to use. But if you're going to be flying on VATSIM, I will suggest you know, it is a little pricey for some people. It is for me. But it's also pretty much mission critical stuff if you're going to go and do if you're going to be flying on VATSIM. So we've looked at SimBrief. We used the flight plan. We also used SimAware. You could also use VATSpy. There's several other really great little maps that you can go and get a little bit of really good information on what's going on in VATSIM right there. And so we were able to figure out what gate to go to, what runways to go and use. And beyond that, the only other thing that I've used is a cute little thing here called Notepad. And I'm going to leave the blank version of Notepad down in the description for you so that maybe you can go and use that too. And that is spy flight planning. Those are all the little steps that I'll do up to going and doing a flight. That way I can choose the runway that they're using, and SimBrief will give me a good appropriate SID or star, and it just makes life so much easier. I hope some of this helped you a little bit. Flight simming is so much fun. The airplanes that we're getting are absolutely amazing too. They keep getting better and better. The ATC in all parts of the world is really, really, the ATC, they're up in their game quite a bit. They've really leveled up a lot of ATC. We're going to be flying in Germany a little bit later on today on the spy flight over on Twitch, and I'll tell you what, they've really leveled up there, and it's they've actually got people who do real world ATC that come in and do ATC on VATSIM. It's really awesome. So thank you so much for watching. I hope some of this helped you out just a little bit. One of the things that I always do like to say, the only graphic that I have for you pre-produced is this is never about the right way versus the wrong way. This is what works for me. I've been flight simming for quite a while, and maybe I hope that some of this is going to work for you. I do like to read all questions and comments. I'm really new here on YouTube, and so I'm reading them all. I also appreciate likes and friends and shares and smileys. And if you really liked what you saw, there's a couple of options to join us down over on Twitch. There's also a pre-flight briefing that I do every morning over on Patreon. And there's also, I think, a Ko-fi link now, too. Thank you so much for watching. Again, I do hope it helped. And I can't wait to see you in the friendly sim skies. Cheers.